Bobby Camwa is a blue, is a blue, is a blue. Bobby Camwa is a blue. He hates Newport. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whenever you're watching or listening to this. This is episode 11 of Rovers Rambles. As always, I'm joined by Jaimie. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. That really threw me off. For the record, he didn't tell me he was going to do that to
No,
start.
no, I thought I would make it a little bit of a surprise for him. Obviously, a nice surprise for everyone who's watching or listening to this as well. We'll get on to that, of course. What a day on Saturday. That's going to be our first topic of conversation. This week, we're going to talk, of course, about that fantastic 5-3 win against Newport County. Then we'll take a look at the EFL Trophy game that happened on Tuesday, the 2-2 draw against Chelsea's under-21s, or if you want to use the name that they call themselves, Cobham Next Gen, utter woke nonsense. And then we'll talk a little bit about that signing that we made on Monday, Philip Sanyaolu, winger on loan from QPR. I think that will be mixed in a little bit to the Chelsea review as well, because of course he did play a little bit, but not much. So I think we'll talk a little bit just about him on his own as well. And then we'll get on to the previews for our next two games. Of course, we've got Crawley on Saturday and then Colchester next Tuesday. Of course, we do an episode once a week. So we're not going to be able to fit in an episode before Colchester. So we're going to talk about it this afternoon. Shall we get straight on then to Newport? What a day. A fantastic result, 5-3. I mean, if we're talking just forward play, I mean, it was one of the best performances I've seen from Rovers in a while.
Yeah, well, it was a game of two halves, but not in the terms of the time, but in the terms of the pitch. The
Yeah.
front half of the pitch, fantastic. Haven't got a bad word to say. Polar opposite for the back half. But the important thing is we ended the rut early. That's the one thing that you think towards last season was we got every bit of like bad moment we had last season came in a run. We didn't have just like one or two bad results. It was always if one happened, it extended. So it was good to just kind of shut that off early, because I think a loss to Newport could have really been the start of something bad, especially with the difference in expectations. But we didn't do that. We did just about what we needed to do in a pretty emphatic way. Like I said, at one end of the pitch, we were absolutely fantastic going forward. There were some really good performances in there, and obviously there are still some concerns, but it's early days, and if we're already this good in one area, you'd like to think we're only going to get better in those other areas and we can really develop into something special.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And I agree, particularly what you were saying about it good being a rot stopper. Obviously, you made a good point that pretty much last season, if one result would go against us, that would spiral then into a run of 4 or 5, sometimes even more. Of course, we had the run of 10 games, so it could really spiral last season. And it's nice to see that we've gone away. Obviously, not everything has been completely fixed, but we've worked on a lot of the key issues that we had against York. Continue to build on the positives. Of course, we both picked out the front line as a positive against York, and I think it only got better against Newport. So it was nice that not only have we fixed up some of the issues, I think the midfield was the big area. I thought we looked particularly good in midfield on Saturday, which of course we didn't at all against York. But I think it was good that not only are we fixing up some of the problem areas, we are also continuing to improve in those areas that we were already doing well in. And I think that's encouraging that we're only getting better. Even if you could say there's not really much to improve on, because I thought this obviously against York, despite the fact that we lost, I thought it was really the defence letting us down. The attack played pretty well and they played even better against Newport. So that was really encouraging.
Yeah, 100%. And I think this was definitely the case of kind of the defence allowed the scoreline to flatten Newport, because in terms of just the general game, we were dominant pretty much from start to finish. You take out those first 30 seconds, and from then on, we were the better team. Like, you can't really think of a period of time where things went against us. It was just these like ridiculously sloppy little moments that cost us. Obviously, we only had 3 shots on target go against us, and all 3 of them went in, which kind of tells you the story. Whereas we easily could have scored more than 5 that day. There were multiple chances that should have gone in. Particularly, the main one that stands out was Camwa's one that he had the end of the first half, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, all round, I think there's so many encouraging signs to take from that. It's just a case of there's some worries as well. How quickly can we pattern those out? Because against the better sides, you don't know how we could get punished for that. As sides
Yeah,
going to put more pressure on us.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good point. Is obviously we've scored 5 goals, fantastic. You know, it's enough to get us the win. But how often do you go concede 3 goals and come away with 3 points? It's not very often. And I think we saw that Newport. I think we underestimated Newport at the start of the season. I don't think they're going to go down. They look like they should be mid-table, maybe lower mid-table, but even still, like considering where they were last season, I think they'll be happy enough with that. But I think they're not quite on the level of teams that we're going to play, you know, later on in the season. And if we concede 3 goals against someone like that, who knows what could happen up front? They could just be, you know, absolutely world beating, fantastic against everyone, and then happy days. But it's not going to happen every game, and I think that is the biggest concern. Even going forward into Chelsea, of course, we'll get onto Chelsea itself later, but the defence just isn't good enough at the moment. That's the biggest concern. Is we've scored 9 goals in 4 games, but we've conceded 8 as well, and that's just too sort of bipolar, isn't it? Really, for it to, in the long term, be a positive and help us push towards, you know, our aims, you know, the promotion and everything.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a concern, and it's weird because it was kind of, you wouldn't have picked this out as an area of concern off the back of last season. It didn't feel like it, and obviously our defense hasn't particularly changed too much. Like the middle of the park is the middle of the back line is exactly the same. Obviously, Kieran Kelly's been brought in, but he hasn't started a league game yet. Hasn't played in a league game yet, has he?
No, I don't think he has. No.
It's been Barmer and Harbottle who were so reliable for us last season, and in particular, Harbottle has really struggled at the start of this one. So it is a weird one because, yeah, when you come up against these better sides that are going to kind of put this more pressure on you, you can't be crumbling this easily because Newport had so little they put on us and we faltered every single time. If you're up against a side who's going to sustain it for longer, is that something that's going to continue? If it is, that's a huge, huge problem. And it's something that we are really going to get punished for if we don't sort it out straight away. And I think we are somewhat fortunate with the fixture schedule that we've got a decent enough period to sort it out over these next 2 games. Because as much as Colchester are a good side, I don't see them as a particularly great attacking outlet, and Crawley are a side that are expected to be down there. So we've got kind of 2 good opportunities to kind of fix ourselves up where we're slightly less likely to be punished for it. But we still have to do that. It's still on us to do it now.
Yeah, no, I agree with your point there that Colchester and Crawley should be 2, no, I'm not going to say easy, but better games to sort out the worries. But obviously we'll get onto that. We can talk about the defence all day, and it is still an area of concern. I agree with you, Harbottle's not been up to scratch. And to be honest, I think he's lucky that we've had sort of a bit of a problem with Kilgore getting back to fitness, because otherwise I could see him being dropped on Saturday. I think the first goal, he fell to clear, didn't he? And obviously that was a great start. Within 13 seconds, we were down 1-0. And then the second goal, when I saw it in the stadium, I put most of the blame on Brad Young. I thought it was a really poor. I thought that the long ball had pretty much just gone over the defenders, and then Brad Young had taken too long to come out of his box. Basically, just dilly-dallied a little bit, and then got sort of caught in the goalkeeper Goldilocks zone, if you like, for strikers, where it's in the perfect area for them to be able to dink it over their head. And I do think that was still slightly on Brad. I think he definitely should have either stayed on his line, or if he decided to commit a lot quicker than he did. But looking back on it, the defenders have really got to deal with that long ball, because it's gone past them far too easily, and then it's obviously let them in, and Brad's then been caught in no man's land. So there's definitely some concerning signs. I think the third goal was the only one that I would say was a really properly well taken finish, and then even then, that was just one quick ball down the line and then into the box, and it's 4-3. So it's a little bit concerning. One, how we're letting the goals go in, but 2, how quickly we are. I mean, we've seen a lot of it in the attacking sense, that we're being quite good at transitioning quickly from sort of midfield defence to attack. But in the same way, teams are quite quick at transitioning from defending against us to then attacking and getting goals at the other end. And that's quite concerning, is how quickly these transitions and these attempts for other sides are taking place.
Yeah, and you kind of like to think off of that it's a wider issue with the setup, that we seem so unsettled that we can kind of, because that's not something you'd necessarily put down to individuals. As much as a lot of the goals we've conceded have come down to individuals, it feels like some of the goals we conceded, I think particularly that third one, as much as you say it's the one that you kind of put the least blame on any individuals for, it's a quick free kick taken down the line and we're like almost non-existent at the back. Harbottle's having to deal with 2 men on his own, and it's come from one pass that's been played from the halfway line down the line, and there's no one there to be seen. So it feels like everything is just that little bit almost disorganized.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's not the kind of thing that we really know how we can really pick out a solution for. That comes down obviously to the coaching team. That's the kind of thing they have to work on quickly. And I mean, it may also just be the kind of thing that comes with time, playing with each other. Obviously, as much as the 2 men in the middle haven't changed, against Newport, both of the fullbacks are new signings.
Yeah,
it's a whole new setup, new deeper line midfielder in Keelan Goff. There is a lot of change that's come in around there, so it may just be a case of getting used to playing with each other, which is natural, but you'd hope it would settle pretty quickly.
And also you could make the argument as well that even if you're just talking about the centre-back partnership of Harbottle and Balmer, and of course played with each other last season as well. They played alongside Kilgore last season as well in a 5, whereas now we're playing in a 4. Could be a little bit of just getting used to that, because obviously it's a new system that they're not used to from last season. And I would say that would be the easiest thing to get used to, other than, you know, playing alongside fullbacks with that are new signings. But you still can play slightly different roles even as a centre-back in a 5 than in a 4. So it is something that might be one of the reasons. I don't think it is a big excuse that we can just say, oh, well, we're playing in a 4 this season. We played in a 5 last season, so that's why we're so bad at the back. I don't think it's one of those all blanket excuses, but I think it could be something to look at.
Yeah, no, definitely, because I mean, it's paid dividends up the other end. And I think this is kind of, everyone's in agreement that this is probably the best setup for us. But there are issues that have come with it. And like you say, it's not an excuse. You're professional footballers who should be able to set up. You're professional defenders who should be able to defend a lot better than how you have been. But yeah, it may well just be kind of a settling in period, getting used to a lot of the changes that have come about. And until time has passed, we're not really going to know for sure. So we've almost just got to kind of trust the process a little bit and see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the one area, of course, that we need to look at is the defence. We can waffle on about that all day. Let's get to some of the actual good stuff, because we're 30 minutes in. It just sounds like we've been bashing the Newport performance this entire time. But my God, there was some good stuff, wasn't there? I mean, we've got to start, haven't we, with Bobby? What a goal to start off with. What a celebration. I mean, Emmanuel Adebayor, eat your heart out. And not even just his goal. I was saying this on Monday when I did my TikTok. If you take the goal away from him, he still had a decent game. It was a good home league debut, all things considered.
Yeah, no, he was really good start to finish. Other than lacking that little bit of clinicality with that one finish, he provided some much needed energy and intensity down that side. He was really giving their fullback a really difficult game. They struggled to contain him. He had a massive part to play in the first goal in particular. Well, obviously, there was a bit of fortune about it in the end, but his work wasn't fortunate. His work was fantastic. And it was just it's a case of just constantly giving them something to think about. Every time he gets the ball, even if he's not going to be successful every time, he's always got the intent. You're always going to have to, you're never going to be able to leave him and wait for him to pass it on. He's always going to have the ability to make something happen on his own, which is just such a dangerous threat, particularly at this level where one man can change a game so easily. It's a difficult proposition for other teams to deal with. And as much as, you know, we're going to hear the same narrative that he's going to have 2 good games and then disappear for 6 months, I don't see that happening, because he's got the personnel around him to make his game work. And I don't see why what we've seen in this first game from him can't carry on.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. He just gives it a go, doesn't he? And I mean, he's got the ability as well, I think, to back it up. I think that can be a positive on his own, just, oh, you give it a go. But I think that can also be a double-edged sword, because sometimes it's a sort of thing that people will say to, like, when they're not particularly happy with someone, they'll be like, oh, well, at least he gives it a go. But what I like from Bobby is that he's giving it a go, but he's also pretty good at what he does. I mean, he was some of the ways he got past the defenders. I mean, obviously that first goal, like you said, was pretty much all his own doing. I mean, not many people would chase a ball like that when it's, you know, pretty much going out of play. There's what, 2 or 3 defenders on him, and he still managed to, one, keep it in play, and then skirt past a couple of defenders, play the ball in. I mean, that was a tough angle as well. So I mean, obviously, I know he hit the crossbar. I know it was Purrington who ended up actually putting it into the net. But for him to take that on and still hit the crossbar from there and just keep the chance alive, and then obviously it ended in a goal, that was very nice intent to see. And yeah, he was very good. Obviously, he got the goal, which, I mean, that's all that anyone will talk about, rightfully so, because for a start, it was great build-up, did very well to get past his man down the line, stroll into the box. Fantastic finish. I mean, pretty much as close to top stanchion and top right bins as you can get. Wasn't quite top bins, but it pretty much was. Keeper had no chance. And then the celebration, I mean, that's all I've seen on Rovers TikTok over the past week, is just stickers of Bobby Camways are blue and he hates Newport. I mean, that's going to just be circling around for the next, well, probably until Bobby leaves us. Such was the class of that moment.
Yeah, it's probably the most kind of media attention we've gotten maybe since Scunthorpe, to be honest.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's been everywhere. Like, it's honestly, it's been incredible to see. What kind of the main thing that I've learned is Newport fans are incredibly soft. Because you can understand them getting angry. We'd be absolutely fuming if someone did that against us. But the amount of people I've seen like actively trying to condemn it as if it was like immoral for him to do, it's like, grow up. Like, actually just grow up. He gave you the warning. He did the interview before the game. He said he'll give the reaction that he gets, which I already thought that was ridiculous, because I've seen the reaction he's been getting the last 2 or 3 months and his comments on every social media. I thought that would be enough, but no, he gives them a chance, and then they spend 70 minutes calling
70 million.
70 minutes calling him a paedophile and booing him every time he gets the ball. So he gives it back, and you absolutely love to see it. Obviously, yeah, again, if it was up the other end and one of theirs did it to us, we'd be absolutely fuming. But that's the way the sport works. And
exactly. Oh yeah, if we were Newport fans right now and we were doing, I don't know, Newport Rambles, I know it don't work, but you get the point. Our heads would be on absolute Mars talking about Camwell right now. In fact, they'd probably be further than Mars. They'd be on Jupiter or Saturn by now. But yeah, well, but I mean, if they're going to give, don't be surprised when you've got to take it. Do you know what I mean? It's silly that they're, like you said, that they're acting like he's, I don't know, committed some sort of murder or something. But it was fantastic to see. I mean, and to be honest, with the reception they were giving him, they deserve it, really.
Yeah, there's this idea around football fans that you can give and you can give, but the second you get, it's an issue. I mean, you'll know this from watching games with me. The amount of times where we've given a player a load of stick and then he scores and celebrates in front of us, I try to not get annoyed by it. I usually, a lot of the time, just go, yeah, fair enough. You hear me do it a lot, because I do just get it. I feel like if you're going to get absolutely screamed at non-stop, you just earn the right to kind of do what you want, especially when it's been as unfair as it is in his case, acting like he owes the club so much more than he does, which he really doesn't. Like, he didn't leave in a disrespectful way. He left to a club that's in a significantly better position who wanted to sign him. In short, rivals, but, you know, rivals with about as heavy as air quotes as you can get.
Yeah.
It's all around just been ridiculous from their end. And I'm glad that we've got a player who's kind of had the personality and the bollocks about him to just go for it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it makes sense as a transfer, doesn't it? I mean, he gave Newport, you know, pretty much their Football League status. You know, he gave them some brilliant memories. He wants to go and, you know, advance his career. So he decides to leave Newport. I mean, can you really begrudge him that? And then he signs for a club. All right, they're in the same league as us, as them, sorry, but we are, with no disrespect to Newport, we are in a much better position. We have aims to get out of this league. We've got the squads that could get out of this league. He's probably been given a decent amount of money. I won't deny that, but you can see the project, you can see the ambition. If they're in for you and you're interested, why would you not want to join us? You can talk all you want about the rivalry. Again, I mean, I definitely don't think it's rivalry. I'm not sure about, I think you think it might be slightly, but it's massively overgrown.
No. I think that it gets portrayed as one when it shouldn't.
Yeah, fair
it's
enough.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I think as well. I think Newport fans, it's a bit like Swindon and Gillingham in a way. I know it's not the same because that we are more local, but Newport fans hate us way more than we hate them, I would say.
It's kind of, yeah, it feels like Plymouth used to do the same thing. A lot of Plymouth fans used to really try and force it with us. And it feels like Newport have kind of taken that mantelpiece almost.
Yeah. Well, I think there's not many teams around them, is there really, that are sort of at their level. Of course, there's like Cardiff, Wrexham are in the north, Cardiff and Swansea really, but they're both in the Championship. So Newport never play them. So I suppose they've kind of got to find someone, haven't they?
Yeah, no, fair enough, actually, yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? You give, so you've got to take. But I mean, we can talk about that celebration all day. We've talked about Camwa enough. What a moment! It will probably be up there for a moment of the season, and it's already been there's only been 2 games in the league. But should we talk a bit more about some of the other positives of the day? Fabrizio Caven, what a player! I mean, we already knew he was an incredible player, but I mean, this season he has been something else. I want to say the one thing that I've been so impressed by with him is his physicality this year. It is making me very excited for what he could produce going forward, because last season, of course, he got, I think, was it 15 goals in all comps, something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. And his biggest weakness was that he was very weak. He got bullied off the ball quite a lot, and he had to have someone up there to lead the line with him. He can do that now, and you can see he's an absolute nuisance up front for the defenders. He's physical. He can win the ball, and then he can get the chances off himself. He can lead the line on his own, and I think that's the biggest thing that will help him push on in terms of goals this season, is the fact that he can do it all on his own. He doesn't need someone there alongside him who has to perform as well. And dare I say, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I am very excited, and I think it could be 20, 25 odd goals. Dare I say he even might be in with a shout of winning the Golden Boot if he keeps going like this, because some of the stuff he has been putting out over the past couple of games has been absolutely fantastic.
I don't see any reason why not. And it feels like he's almost accepted the situation he's in now. I feel like a big issue with him last season was he knew he wasn't biggest. He knew he wasn't particularly strong. He knew he wasn't like of the kind of profile to be physical. So he'd play his game almost trying to avoid it.
Yeah.
He'd like very much like change the runs he'd make, change the kind of what he would give to back away from these challenges and just try and get as much of his game being technical to play to his strengths. Whereas it feels like now he's very much accepted that in this league, you're going to get bullied, you're going to get thrown about by centre backs. So he's really put that work in so he can kind of just embrace that and just give it a go. Because you don't need to be the biggest in the world. If you're up for the battles, you can really give them a good go. We've seen players do it in the past for us who weren't of that physicality, but would really just kind of get stuck in and make it work. And that really feels like that is what he's been doing. A lot of effort's clearly got in and he's all the better for it. And if you can get that sense of physicality on top of his exceptional ability on the ball in a technical sense, it's going to just be such a good and such a scary product for everyone else to deal with. Because, I mean, that first goal, I don't think anyone's given that first goal as much credit as it deserves, his first goal. The composure he has there to just take that little dummy, take that little half seconds, just let the ball roll across and completely take the centre-back out of the game to essentially just give him like a one-on-one from a position where he shouldn't necessarily have a one-on-one. It's so impressive. It's like we heard managers say it last season. He has aspects of his game that are so much higher than the level that he's playing at, and he really has got the potential to go so far. And you see it come out in these flashes where he just does stuff that you just would not expect to see from a player at this level, even if it isn't necessarily like the most flashy stuff in the world. Just these little intricate details he's so on the ball with, and I cannot speak highly enough about him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got moments, hasn't he? And again, this is another thing I've said a few of these sort of like descriptors that can be a good and a bad thing. Obviously, we can talk about a moment player and be like, oh, well, he only turns up in at X. But the good thing is, when I say moments for Cav, his baseline performance is good enough as it is, and then he can just pull out, like you said, that first goal was absolutely fantastic. I mean, it was good build up from him as well. He was involved in the build up, and then obviously James played that lovely pass through to him. Obviously, he peeled away from the defender, and it was a good finish. That's the best thing about Cav so far, is that he is not afraid to get stuck into the build up as well. He can do it. He can get a move started and then he can finish it off himself. He's everywhere in that front line, and that is really good to see. And yeah, he's been. I mean, obviously he was great last season anyway. He was kind of a revelation and a big reason why we ended up staying up, because of how starved for goals we were in that run. But I mean, we're talking about revelations. I would say Cav has been one so far this season.
Yeah, no, you have to consider him as one, and it's like you said. I mean, his baseline, he's a moments player, but his baseline is a solid, very decent League Two striker, and the moments are Championship level.
Yeah,
and when you can get a player like that in the forward areas, it's such a scary prospect to have at this level. And you can't. I mean, he's got the 2 goals. Obviously, the second goal was a bit of a gimme for him, but he's got 2 goals. Played a massive part in the third one, which I think it kind of it sums up the game as well as a whole. The fact that we haven't even mentioned the third goal yet is one of the weirdest own goals I've ever seen in my life. And
yeah.
it's not even got a talking point over 25 minutes into the podcast. But he puts the pressure on. He applies the pressure to a centre back who's on the ball, forces him to lump it in his own bottom corner. He's just such a dangerous prospect all round. And if we can keep his kind of fitness where it was for the first half of last season, he is only going to get better. And that's a scary thing to think about, that he can probably get better than this.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And I think the thing that you said about keeping his fitness to that same level, I think what will help us is he's had a proper pre-season this year. He didn't really have that last year, of course, with being in Vaduz, who I don't think start until like September, and then he's had to come straight into England, who start a month early. And I think he just ran out of steam by the end of last season. But I mean, obviously the physicality is there, and I think when you sort of build up that little bit of muscle, that can also build up your sort of physical base as well. I know they're 2 separate things, but they can work hand in hand, can't they, sometimes? And I think that hopefully he's gone away and worked on both. I would expect he's gone away and worked on both, and I think that will be a good thing for us, because I mean, that was his biggest problem last season. There were his 2 biggest problems, were his physicality and his fitness. And I think he has gone away. We could definitely 100% see that he's worked on one of them. And you would like to think a lot of the stuff he can do to work on the physicality can also help to build up his fitness. So I'm hoping that he's done both, and we've got a really good season on our hand. I've got to say as well, what a finish from Lee Jenkins. Absolute rifle. But yeah, it was great work from Cav to actually, unsavable, right in the bottom corner. Should lump him up front for the next game. But yeah, the work that Cav did for that goal made it. That's what you're trying to say, and I completely agree. He made that goal, despite obviously not getting the touch that put it in the back of the net. Just him being there, that presence to just put off Jenkins, and I don't know what he was thinking, trying to just lump it into his own net. But you've got to be there. You've got to put the pressure on, and they might make a mistake, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, this is a kind of a bit of a random comparison. I don't know how much this will kind of play to you, because I know you're very much kind of a lower league exclusively fan. But Caven, in a way, almost reminds me of like a lower league Alexis Sanchez when he was at Arsenal, because Sanchez, he's not the biggest player in the world, but you never used to think of his physicality. I can't talk. His physicality as a problem, because he just used to kind of chuck himself at everything. He was so high energy, and he used to just absolutely throw himself at anyone, regardless of the size. Like, make it, I don't know, Robert Hoof. He'd go and he'd be going into 50-50 shoulder to shoulder with him, and he'd make it work. And that's what Caven's reminding me of at the moment. He's like so energetic, so quick, and obviously so technical, but he's so committed as well to just get stuck in on absolutely anyone. And it makes up for kind of the physical discrepancy when you're the one showing the intent. And it's a scary thing to see at this level. I keep repeating that word, but it is a scary thing to see at this level, and I'm really, really excited to see where we go from here.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I think that's a good analogy, actually. He's the League Two Alexis Sanchez. Obviously, not when he was at United. We don't want to talk about that, but he, he has, what a start. That's all I can say is what a start. He's physical. He leads the line well. Oh, is it? Well, it's 2 goals, isn't it? But he made had a very big impact in getting some of those. Well, at least one of the goals against York. So he's been probably involved in 3 of the goals in the league. He's just and the own goal. So I suppose you could say he's been involved in 4 of the goals in the league already, despite only having 2 on the score sheet. Yeah, he could be really. I said it. Obviously, we saw how good he was last season, but he could really be a revelation once again with how much he improves. And considering how his baseline was from last season, that could be a scary prospect for the rest of League Two. Should we talk about Keenan Goff now? Because wow, I mean, this is another player we can rave about all day because, wow, that's all I can say. What a player.
It's very, very rare you find a player at this level who's got the on the ball and off the ball capabilities to find a deeper line midfielder who's so game to just stick himself into challenges and is like such a kind of a dual winner, but to also have like as good of a passing range as he has and to be such a threat going the other way as well. It's an anomaly at this level, and it's the kind of thing we're going to have to just make the most of while we've got it. We've done it again. We've fallen in love with a lone player.
Yeah,
but he's another player that I just cannot speak highly enough of because he's been absolutely flawless so far, really.
Yeah, I mean, he's just been absolutely everywhere. I know people say it a lot, but he really has. He has been absolutely everywhere. He's mopping up in defence. Like you said, he's playing loads of beautiful passes. I mean, some of the challenges he was making on Saturday, I mean, there's somewhere he was literally sprinting out of position just to go and make a challenge down the line, force a throw in and then come back into the middle. Like the amount of ground he can cover in such a short space of time is quite astounding. He is literally, he's like a flea in the sense that he just gets absolutely everywhere. I mean, it's a weird analogy, but it's true. He is all over the middle of that pitch in a good way. He's been fantastic so far, and I'm slightly worried because I've seen on Bristol Live he might not be fit on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm hopeful he will be because it's just a tight hamstring, so it's the kind of thing we're hopeful, but it's a worry because I can't see this team without him in it at the minute.
No, yeah.
So yeah, hopefully all is well there.
What I want to say is the biggest compliment I can give of Keenan Goff is that he has managed to drop Richie Smallwood in 2 games. For a player who seemed undroppable when we brought him in, like we brought him in for the specific purpose he was going to play that role, to drop him within 2 league games, and that's through no fault of Richie's own. He's still a great player, but the fact that Keenan has been so good, he has been able to drop Richie Smallwood. I think that really sums up what we need, what we want to say about Keenan more than we can actually put it into words because, yeah, like I said, to drop a player of Richie Smallwood's caliber, you've got to be special.
And he's done it in a position that he's never played. I can't speak today. He's done it in a position that he's never played before as a professional. He's made, 5 appearances for Charlton in their first team, and all of them came as a centre-back. So as much as he is familiar with the position at a professional level, he's not. And it's probably the hardest position you can get chucked into as a professional, especially at League Two level where it is so physical, is like right in the middle of the pitch.
Yeah.
And he's just absolutely stamped his authority on it. And like I said, I can't see a version of this team that doesn't have Keenan Goff in the heart of it.
No, absolutely not. He's made himself one of the first names on the team sheet pretty much within a fortnight. I mean, like you said, it is such a hard position to be chucked into. I mean, like Smallwood, he's 35. He's quite a physical player, and that's why he's probably able to flourish so much there. So for someone who's 20, like you said, he's made 5 appearances at Charlton, all at centre back. to then come into one of probably I would argue it's one of the hardest positions on the pitch, and to just look like you've been doing it for 20 years. Yeah, I mean, we could. The thing, it's a shame we've only got an hour and 41 minutes. That's how long I've got until I've got no storage left. Because otherwise, this could turn into a 4-hour Bobby Camwa, Fabrizio Cavin, and Keenan Goff glaze session. That could just be the whole our whole afternoon could just be glazing them, because they have been absolutely those. I mean, Camwa. It does help. Obviously, he got the goal in the celebration, but he was fantastic on Saturday. Cavin, Golden Boot winner. Maybe it's me being a little bit, oh, look at you, biased to Rovers, but he's got the makings of it. And then Keenan Goff is just an absolute engine. He's a bit like Smallwood in the sense that he's a Rolls Royce, but he's a new make Rolls Royce. He's fresh off the assembly line, and he's just banging in 8 out of 10 performances on the regular. I mean, how he's doing it is beyond me, but it's a good thing he is, because what a player.
Yeah, and we've got one hope now, which is, please, for the love of God, don't let him be recalled early.
Yeah, that is very true. If Charlton, if anyone who supports Charlton, or even better, if anyone who works for Charlton Athletic is watching this video, this podcast, then just forget everything we've said. He's actually like shit. He's been really bad for the first couple of games. We could have lost, really. The fact that we had him in the side on Saturday, he was really at fault for all of their goals. So, just don't recall him. If anything, you should just give him to us on a free, because we might as well take him off your hands. Be a service to you, if anything.
We're a generous club, and we are willing. We'll do it on the cheap to kind of avoid the suspicion, but we will we'll take him off your hands and save you the hassle of sending him out to step 5 of non-league, which you're eventually going to have to do because he's just that bad, We'll spare you that trouble.
Yeah, we're a charity. Just give all your shit players to us. Give all your shit players to us, and then
maybe you can play for the CT.
Oh my God, they still wouldn't win. Don't take the piss. They still wouldn't win. It would go from what, like 22-0 to 14. Oh, what a fantastic result that is.
That's going to make no sense to anyone listening.
Oh, it's going to make if by some miracle anyone who went to the community college between 2022 and 2024 is listening to this, hello. It's been a while.
I hope you're doing better now than you were when we were there.
Yeah, I hope things have picked up in your life since then. We're getting on a massive tangent, aren't we? I think we've talked enough about Newport now. Well, bloody hell, we've done 38 minutes. This is by far our longest review of any game. To be fair, rightfully so, because there was a lot to talk about. Should we get on now to Chelsea on Tuesday? Of course, a rotated side, so you can't look too much into it. But again, it's the same sense that the front line looks really good. I thought, especially considering it was a second fiddle, I thought there was some very good stuff being played there. But again, the defence have just let us down. Like I said before, when we were talking about Newport, of course, I was taking the Chelsea game into account. So we've now, in 4 competitive games, scored 9 goals, but conceded 8. And the goal scoring stats, they're very good, but the goals conceded, they're just not good enough.
Yeah, and we've also now, our last 5 shots on target that we've conceded, they've all gone in, which is where they only had 2 shots on target in the game, scored both of them, which is a concern. I actually didn't think there was really anything to criticise before they scored their first. I thought it was just like a really comfortable performance. They should have probably scored right at the end of the first half. They had the one-on-one that their player put wide.
Yeah.
But other than that, I thought we were really comfortable. We looked kind of a step ahead everywhere. Some of the attacking play was really, really good. I thought H had a really good game.
Yeah.
And then we decided to go back into our old habits and part like the Red Sea and let teams back into the game.
Yeah, I would say the first 65 minutes, like you were saying, I would say it was just a definition of steady, if you know what I mean. It wasn't absolutely amazing, but there was some good play through it, obviously we got the 2 goals. I thought the first one was fantastic. Great ball down the line from de Havilland. Aitchison doing well to latch onto it, and a good ball across the box. And obviously Mace Reich's right place, right time, 1-0. The second goal as well, I thought both the goals were pretty good. I thought the link-up play between Aitchison and Russell Denny for the second goal was pretty good. I thought Aitchison played a good ball, and then it was a great run from Russell Denny to find the space, and then obviously cross into the box. A nice little... It was a volley, wasn't it? Like a rest volley into the bottom, well, not bottom corner, but into the bottom of the net from Joe Quigley. That was a good finish. Both the goals were pretty good, and yeah, we were just cruising, weren't we? And then it was just one little... I mean, Jack Sparks, I'm sorry, I don't want to single him out, but he's not started the season well at all, has he? And he showed it again on Tuesday. Got beat far too easily down the wing for that first goal, and then it was just the simple ball in the box. I thought Kelly could have maybe got across to it slightly quicker, but I'm not going to criticise him for it too much, because I think even then he would have struggled to get to it. And then it's just simple. I mean, Binns couldn't have done anything about the goal, could he really? Once the ball got into the box, that was it, basically. It was, again, I don't want to single him out, but it was Sparks getting beat down that right-hand side for Chelsea, you know what I mean, our left-hand side, that really was the catalyst for that goal.
Yeah, I think from a game like this, where you don't really care about the result, all you're looking at are the individuals. And I think it was very clear to see that Jack Sparks was the standout on the wrong ends. That one-on-one that I mentioned in the first half, I believe that came from him completely miskicking a clearance.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
So he was definitely a weak link. There were definitely some positives in there. Reece Russell Denny, was a class above everyone else on that pitch. I'd like to think. I thought he was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Incredibly unlucky to not come away with an absolute beauty of a goal right at the start as well. The way he catches that half volley is ridiculous off the underside of the crossbar. But yeah, I think there's a limit to how much you're going to read into this. There's a couple little concerns, but it was a fully rotated side. Not a single player that started against Newport started this game, I don't believe.
No, I think you're right. Yeah.
So yeah, there were a few little good bits. We like the attacking play. It was good to see Quigley get back on the score sheet. Couple concerns. You don't read too much into it, really.
No, I'd agree. I think the one thing I'll say, I think obviously the positive is that we've changed pretty much I think it was the entire 11, and we still looks pretty good going forward. Obviously, you can't read too much into a game against in the EFL Trophy, but some of the play that we showed going forward was still quite good, and I think it's good to see that we seem like we'll be all right if we've got to use options off the bench. Of course, we do, but I mean, if we've got like problems with injuries, God forbid, then it seems like we've got players who can step up and fill a role if they need to in that front line, which is good. Well, I'm surprised it's taken us 11 episodes. You might be thinking, what's happened with the audio, or indeed the video if you're watching this on YouTube? Well, it's Idiot Eddles has finally struck for the first time, as somehow I managed to accidentally stop the recording on Riverside, which is the platform that we use to record these podcasts. So I hope you were enjoying my rant about the Chelsea game. I had just finished talking about Russell Denny by the time we stopped recording, and I thought it would be easier for me to just cut out all of that bit and then start talking about him again. So what I was saying about Russell Denny was that I thought he was, I agree with basically Jaimie that he was pretty much everywhere up in that advanced area of the midfield. Made some good runs, played some good passes. Obviously, he got that nice assist for Joe. And yeah, that was pretty much all what I was saying about Russell Denny. And I think he deserves a start on Saturday. And now we can move on from that. And hopefully I don't press the stop recording button again, because now I've already got to edit this podcast once and I don't want to do it again. Right, that's completely thrown me off my train of thought. Where are we? We've pretty much finished talking about Chelsea now, haven't we?
Yeah, well, the one other thing I was going to give a mention to, since this is kind of the podcast where the theme is over the top celebrations, Chelsea, problem next gen. I respect you guys. I love it. They score the equaliser and they shush the fans, and then they score their first penalty and they shush the fans, and then their keeper saves a penalty and they shush the fans, and then they score the winning penalty and they shush the fans again. I love it. I know I shouldn't love it because he's coming against my team. I thought it was hilarious. And
All I'll say on that regard is fair play to them, because the majority of them are going to end up at like Basingstoke Town by the time they're 22. So to give it large like that against, you know, a team of actual like full-blown professionals, you've got to say fair play. I mean,
you never know when you're going to get the chance again. You got to take it while you got
yeah,
it.
exactly.
I respect it massively. And their first penalty was a joke, by the way.
Yeah.
The dink down the middle. Fair play
to
him.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I thought it might have been the first penalty they missed. Obviously, it was the second, but yeah, I remember that one now. That was a good penalty. I mean, what else can you say about that? To be fair, though, it's a penalty shootout. Chelsea.
That kind of how much we care about this game. That the kind of the second talking point we have is being happy that a team celebrated against us.
I mean, I wasn't happy with it. It was just funny, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think that's sums up Chelsea, really, that game, doesn't it? The two most exciting things that have happened during this segment is me accidentally stopping the recording and Chelsea's 17-year-olds getting a bit too loud in front of the Thatcher's end. Shall we move on then? I think we're going to talk about one of our latest signing next. Of course, Philip Sanyaolu, winger. I think he's 18, is he not? On loan from QPR. Now, of course, I think most of us, Gasheads, didn't really know much about Philip before we signed him. I think quite obviously he's a young winger from a championship side. You tend not to hear, unless they've broken into the first team, about wingers. Well, not wingers, anyone really at that age. But I've seen the reviews from the QPR fans, and it seems like if he lives up to what they think he can do, we've got a player on our hands.
Yeah, it's been very reminiscent of what we heard about Goff. It's very much he's too good for the level. He should probably be going higher. He's kind of, in terms of profile, he very much seems like he's a big guy, but he's a very willing runner. He's fast. He's aggressive. He's constantly, I think, similar to how we were talking about Camwell earlier. He sounds like the kind of player who's just going to constantly be giving you something to think about, and he's constantly going to be a presence. And I'm all for players like that. I think that's what we need more. I don't know if I've said this to you before, but my least favorite kind of archetype of player in the world are wingers that hate to have a go at their man. If you're going to give them the profile of a player like Jack Grealish in that period of City, where every time he got the ball, he was turning around. I despise players like that. So any player that's willing to give it a go, I'm always going to be on board with. And it just comes down to him now to show us he's got the quality to back it up as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. If you're a winger, kind of the whole point of your role is that you have a go at defenders. So what's the point if you're going to, like you said with Grealish, just sort of pussyfoot around with it, really? I think as well, the one thing that I'm quite excited by is, from what I've heard from QPR fans, not only has he got the sort of willingness to take on defenders, the physicality to do it as well, but he's also quite quick. And I think that's quite a rare combo in wingers. You normally get one that's quick, one that's physical, but you don't normally get both. And from what I can tell from QPR fans, we have both here with Philip. So if they're right, I think that will be a big asset, because it'll be a very rare sort of archetype of defender that can do both of those things. Defender? What am I on about? Winger that can do both of those things. My God, some of the stuff we've been putting out today has been fantastic, hasn't it?
We're struggling today.
11 episodes in, by the way. Professionals at this now. Come on.
But yeah, no, it's kind of, it's tailor-made for League Two, really, isn't it? Because it's the kind of league where if you have a bit of quality and energy, you can succeed. If you have the physicality, you can succeed. If you get both, it's kind of hard to envision a world where it does go wrong, really. It's kind of, I'm excited. I'm not going to act like he's somebody I'd heard of. I'd never heard his name before, but he's got, kind of from the outside looking in, he's got seemingly everything it would take to succeed there. It's just a case of nailing down that bit of quality and seeing where he can go.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's pretty much all we can say about him right now. We don't know much about him. From what the QPR fans say, he looks like he'll be a decent prospect. Of course, I was saying I like the combo of physicality and speed, if he indeed possesses it. I think we need another winger. I'm glad we signed another winger, because I think that's the one area where we've looked particularly light this season so far, is out on the wing. So I'm glad we've got another one of them. I think that's good for squad depth. Yeah, there's not really much else you can say, I think, unless we kind of knew what we were getting in for with Philip, which obviously we've got an idea from the QPR fans, but you never really know unless you've seen them play. We can't really say much more than what we have here. I think it looks like a decent signing. He looks like a decent archetype of player. Hopefully he'll do well for us. I think that's really all we can say at the moment.
Yeah, he's patched a bit of a hole in depth that we had, and now we give it the time and see where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's all we can do at the moment. Shall we move on then? A bit of a quick section there, but I think that's really all we've got to talk about, Philip. Let's move on now to our next two games. Of course, we do weekly episodes here, but Rovers are playing twice within the next week, so we're going to be doing pretty much two previews in one here. Of course, we've got on Saturday our next away game. You're going to be there. That'll be nice. Against Crawley Town. And then on the 1st of September, so Tuesday night, can't believe it's nearly September already.
Yeah, I know.
We are playing back at home, back at the Mem, against Colchester United. So I'm planning to make the title the second bit of the title the three C's. So if that makes sense, now Chelsea, Crawley, Colchester, the three C's. We're about to cover the next two. So shall we get into that then? Of course, we've got Crawley first. So I think how I'm thinking we should do this, we talk about Crawley first, what we'll face from Crawley, then we talk about what we face from Colchester, and then realistically, we're going to want to set up in similar ways between both games. So then I think we talk about how we set up to tackle both teams. So Crawley, it's going to be an interesting one because we know that didn't have the best of seasons last season. And I don't think they've particularly done much in the transfer window that makes me think they'll improve that much. I mean, that Kazim Richards looks like an improvement on Lindsay. And I don't mean this in the sense that I think Lindsay is still a better manager, but I just think for whatever reason, it wasn't working at Crawley the second time around. And I think Kazim Richards has a bit more of the fan base on board. And I think just for whatever reason, I don't know what this is like, kind of like speculative in a way. I just feel like it's working a little bit better for him there, but I think he can only do so much. And I think, yeah, Crawley might struggle this year.
Yeah, I'm yet to see anything particularly from them that has made me too worried going into this. They're coming into this 1 win, 1 loss, lost on the opening day to Crew, who are a side who I don't particularly fear them either, to be perfectly honest. And then a 2-1 win over Rochdale, which looks decent on the face of it, but Newport beat them 3-0.
Yeah.
So I'm not seeing anything particularly scary from them. I think we kind of are in agreement that all of the sides from last season who were down in and around that mix that survived it are kind of going to be back there, aside from maybe Tranmere.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of in that similar position. They're all kind of stuck down there again, or at least you'd expect them to be. So yeah, they're not a side I'm particularly worried about, which are almost the games that worry me the most because they're the ones that seem to provide the most issues. But no, it's a kind of game I'm confident for.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I think it's that we've not seen much improvement from Crawley. There's a few sides down that end that you think are just going to finish there again. Crawley are one of them. I think as well, it's a similar sense as to what we said about Newport last week in the fact that they haven't really had much of a test. I think the only really positive result they've had this season is that 2-0. Well, they've won a game, so all right, maybe I'm being a bit harsh here, but Rochdale is not exactly a fantastic win in the sense of like, wow, you've played really well. I mean, they only won 2-1, and against like Rochdale, who haven't started the best. Their only like proper positive result was that 2-0 against York in the preliminary round of the Carabao. And even then, can we look into that too much? Because that was right at the start of all the trouble with Maynard and Lindsay. I think it took York a while to sort of gel together with Lindsay, and I think it eventually, unfortunately, showed against us. And I think that's why we sort of underestimated York a little bit, is we thought it might take a little bit more time for them and Lindsay to gel together. And unfortunately for us, it happened, I would say, pretty much right before us. But then with Crawley, can you maybe say that they played York at the perfect time when we thought we might play York at the perfect time?
Yeah, there was so much outside context for that game where Crawley played York, and obviously because it was the preliminary round, they were the only team that were playing, so it wasn't like you're kind of going to be distracted elsewhere. All of the focus was on York. It was a difficult situation for them to be involved in, one that Crawley, credit to them, took advantage of. But it was a difficult thing. So it's one that you struggle to read into too much. But you definitely like to think that we come into this as pretty significant favourites. Yeah, again, they don't. Yeah, there's nothing I can see in terms of their squad or their setup or their form or anything that really worries me particularly.
No, I'd agree. Like I've said, the only real positive result they've had this year is against York, and even then with the circumstances, I think their squad's not up to scratch. I think their manager's all right, but he's not exactly going to set the world alight. I think it's another game a bit like Newport, where I know obviously I said this all last week, and then we ended up going 1-0 down within 13 seconds and still won. But I think it's another one that if we can just force them into a bit of adversity, which they've not really particularly faced so much this season. You could say Crewe, but then Crewe was a 95th minute winner, wasn't it? So even then, really, is it adversity? No, it's just a sucker punch. So I think that's something we need to do, is just try and drag them into a bit of, and hopefully, because this is what I said last week. I think this is what we both said, that we thought if we could drag Newport into adversity, they would probably crumble, because that's what we saw last season. And thankfully for us, we were completely right with that. Once we dragged Newport into that adversity, when they were 2-1, when it was 2-1, they completely fell apart from there. And so hopefully we can do the same with Crawley. I think that's what we need to do, is just, they're not exactly the best of sides. They've had a good start relatively. It's been sort of average-ish. They've not exactly particularly faced anyone that I would consider tough, with the exception of York. But again, the extenuating circumstances, I would still say not really. So I think, again, it's just a case of doing what we did against Newport, dragging them into adversity, and then we see how they react with it. And hopefully it's exactly like they reacted to adversity last season, and then that should stand us in good stead for getting 3 points.
Yeah, we can't let them get comfortable. We just got to force them into our game, because if we get them playing our game, we will just outclass them. We have got the advantage in pretty much every area. It's just not letting us get dragged into a game that we don't want to be a part of, which we kind of did against York. So it's about just keeping that away. We didn't do it against Newport. We kept Newport playing our game, and aside from the little individual issues, we did nothing wrong there as an overall setup. We did nothing wrong. So it's about just replicating that and cutting out the little mistakes in between it all.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most sort of cliche and like cop out things to say, but it is true in the sense that when you play so well, like against a specific team like you did against Newport, and then you play a team that's sort of similar in quality and sort of not necessarily stature, but sort of like where they have been in the football pyramid, particularly last season, you just got to play the same game, and then you would expect that you get similar outcomes. I know it sounds so like obvious, but it's true. And yeah, we've just got to keep going. Really, that's all we need to do. Sort out the defence. That's the biggest problem, because again, we said it in the Newport review. How often do you score 3 goals and still win a game? Not very. So if we concede 3, sorry, wow, this has been an interesting episode so far. Yeah, so we cannot concede 3 again. That's the point I'm trying to get at, because more likely than not, you end up losing a game.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's our game to win. It's our game to lose. There's not much more you can say than that, really.
Yeah, definitely. And then for Colchester, I think this one will be interesting, because I think, where did you put them in predictions? Because I ended up putting them just outside of the playoffs.
I can check for you very quickly. I've got them pulled up. I had them 12th, bang on mid-table.
Yeah. So I think we both agree that this will be, in terms of the two, a lot tougher of a test. I think we've got them sort of like, obviously I've got them just outside playoffs, which is still technically mid-table, and you've got them high mid-table. I think we both agree that they've got a pretty strong squad. They showed that at the end of last season. They probably, if they'd have gone on a run about a month earlier than they did, they might have been able to break into the playoffs. And I think that will be a good test to see where we're at, because I think they'll be not up there in the sense of being in a chance of getting promotion. I mean, I suppose they could be if they're finishing 8th, but they'll be up there in the sense that they'll finish high in the league. And so it will be a good benchmark to test where we're at, because obviously we played against York, who could very well be up there, but it was opening day of the season, and with everything that's going on with it, it didn't feel like we were playing a team that's sort of up that top end, if that makes sense. But now
Yeah.
you can properly tell that we're playing one of the bigger teams. So it'll be interesting, I think, on Tuesday as a gauge to see where we are truly. And I think Tuesday will be where the defensive issues will need to be sorted, because they will matter a lot more, because Colchester will have the defensive capabilities to deal with our front line a lot more. Like, if our front line are firing against Crawley, that's probably curtains for them, because they have been so good recently. A team with Crawley's defensive quality probably won't be able to deal with it. But with Colchester, while if they are still firing, there's a very good chance we get goals and get a result. Colchester have the players who could very well deal with it much more than Crawley do.
Yeah, no, I think that's an interesting point to bring up, because my kind of pre-season assessment of Colchester, looking at them, was they're a very solid all-round prospect. Their kind of only issue is I don't particularly see where their goals are coming from. I don't think they have a particularly reliable number 9. I don't think they have a particularly reliable right winger outside of Harry Anderson. I don't think their attack is particularly nailed on to do anything of any significance. But I think it is definitely the kind of game where they could have what it takes to shut us out to an extent.
Yeah.
And it's going to come down to whether we can do the same to them, because as much as I don't think it would be necessarily difficult to do the same to them, because like I said, I don't think they have the best attack in the world. We've shown early on this season that we can give things up for free, and it's about making their front line, which I don't think is particularly strong, work to get success, and not handing it to them on a silver platter.
Yeah, and especially because, despite the fact that you obviously, I think we both agree that they're defensively more strong than they are attacking wise, they still have much better forward players than Newport or Crawley do. And so if the fact that we've seen us hand Newport goals just on a silver platter when they don't particularly have the best attacking players, just think what we can do then if we're handing goals to Colchester, because they could get forward a lot more, and obviously you hope it stops. But if we just keep conceding every shot on target, which we are at the moment, who knows what could happen? Because then all it takes is just one, lapse at the back, and then bang, Colchester have a shot on target. It's 1-0. So that is something we really need to fix up. I think Crawley, we can maybe get away with it, because I think we've got the firepower to score quite a few goals against Crawley from what we've seen and with the quality that Crawley have. But I don't think we will against Colchester, and that's where I think we can maybe get away with it again somewhat against Crawley. But if we haven't sharpened up the defence by the time we play Colchester, that could be a big problem.
Yeah, definitely. But I always do think, kind of in general, it's better to be conceding goals thanks to individual mistakes than kind of wider tactical issues, because I think they're a lot easier to iron out this way. I'm glad at least our errors and our weak points have come from moments of stupidity that you should be able to get rid of, rather than a greater issue that we're having to kind of fix as we go. Where with our current setup, I mentioned this earlier, in reality, our strengths shouldn't get worse, but our weaknesses should get better. Round. So I think we can become such a better prospect than we are right now. And I think these 2 games are the time where this is also something I mentioned earlier, where it's kind of the right sort of games where we can use them as a chance to kind of settle ourselves and steady, and use them to push us on later on.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point, because I think as well, playing 2 games so close to each other, because then obviously we've got a quick opportunity to put anything that goes wrong against Crawley right. I think it's good to have sort of a couple of games quick after each other. So then if there's any issues, especially early in the season, because obviously there's going to be issues early in the season. And I agree with you. I think we are looking more at individual mistakes at the back more than sort of a systematical, tactical problem. And that's a good thing because, like you said, it's much easier to solve than if it was a team-wide, system-wide problem. And so to play 2 games quick after each other then gives us twice the opportunity within the same week to look at things, iron things out, and then we can keep going forward into the season against Rotherham, Grimsby, Gillingham, etc. And hopefully we've got some of those problems fixed. Also, who knows, we might have Kilgore back by Saturday. I think is he more of a doubt than Goff, from what I can tell. But
he's more of a doubt, yeah, but they've both been described as kind of touch and go. So
yeah,
it's a possibility.
But it seems that we're getting towards the point where Kilgore is back as well, which I think will be huge for us. Just to give that bit of competition, because I think that's the one thing we learned as well that I forgot to touch on against Chelsea, because that section just kind of went to disaster after the recording incident. That I think we saw from Kieran Kelly, not that he necessarily had a bad game, but I think through through not exactly setting the world alight, he's kept Harbottle in the starting 11 for another week. But I think if Kilgore can come back, I think then he's got some proper competition. And I think that could be good for him because I think we've seen it a little bit with Brad Young that he's maybe a bit too lackadaisical about him being number 1, and it's sort of dropped his performances a little bit. Whereas maybe last year, because Southwood was still sort of in the conversation, he had to really perform to make sure that he had that number 1 spot. And I think that could be good for Harbottle in a sort of similar way, to have like Kilgore, even Kelly, like just pushing him for that starting berth. That should hopefully iron out some of his mistakes, because I think Jack Sparks probably won't start on Saturday. And in terms of defence, he's probably been the worst player so far. But out of the centre-backs, Harbottle is the one that really needs to step up his game, because he's not been terrible, but he's made too many mistakes at the moment.
Yeah. You have the fire underneath you when you're kind of the new commodity, which is what he had last season. As much as there was no one particularly behind him pushing for his spot last season, he came in and he was the one who had something to prove. He was the one who had to play himself into the team, which was the same with Brad Young. He was by default at the start of last season the number 2, and then he played himself into the number 1, so he was constantly having to maintain it. Whereas now, where they've kind of become settled, there has been a bit of a drop-off because they likely have become just that bit more comfortable. Yeah. And I do think we have the person now to challenge him once everyone's fit, so it is up to Harbottle to kind of step his game up. And the good thing is with that squad depth is, as much as we want him to, if he doesn't, we have options and we can move past him, at least for the time being. But you'd like to think he's a player with immense quality when he's on it, so you would like to think that he's going to turn it around.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got the ability to turn it around. It's just up to him now to put things right, just iron out those mistakes. And like you said, even if he doesn't, which we of course all hope he does, we've got plenty of quality on the bench where we can just think, right, he's not been particularly up to scratch the first couple of weeks. Let's give him a couple of weeks out, see what, I don't know, Kilgore or Kelly can do. And hopefully that can be a benefit for the squad, because you would like to think if let's say Kilgore comes in, maybe for Colchester, let's say Harbottle starts against Crawley and doesn't have the best of games again, and then Kilgore comes in against Colchester, you'd like to think he'll be hungry to impress, because obviously he's not been in the side for the first, that will have been the 3rd league game of the season, so he wouldn't have been in the side for the first 3 games, and he'll want to impress because he'll want to be playing football. Obviously he's a football player, they all want to play football. And that will also hopefully give Harbottle the kick up the backside, because they'll think, right, I've been dropped here. I need to sort these performances out because I want to get back in the starting 11. And then it's healthy competition that you want. You want the players to push each other to be as good as they can. And I think that would be beneficial for Harbottle, because like you said, our biggest issue in defence has not been the system. Yeah, it's been the individual mistakes. And if you can get that competition going, I think that is a big factor that will help push mistakes out of the performance. And so I think that's probably a good thing about sort of Kilgore getting back to fitness, or seeing Kelly play on Tuesday, despite the fact that he didn't particularly set the world alight. It's good to see that we've got those options that we can use if we need to to help iron out the defence, because we're a broken record saying it, but it is by far our biggest issue at the moment.
Yeah, it's our biggest issue, but like we've said, it's a rectifiable one. It's this is the period now. I think this week will be defined by how do we fix that issue for not only these 2 results, but for everything that happens after this. It will kind of be defined by what we see in these next 2 games, and I'm hopeful we'll sort it out. I'm confident we will sort it out.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this could be the sort of catalyst for a real run of form. If we can sort those defensive problems out, then we can we've got Crawley, who are relatively low down, so you'd like to think we get a result. And if we can get a result then against Colchester, we can go into sort of 2 tougher games against Rotherham and Grimsby, full of confidence that we've sorted out our biggest issue, and our attack look fantastic as they are, as long as they keep firing, which I think we haven't really touched on the attack at all so far in this preview, because there's not much more to say. It's just do what you've been doing for the past 3 games, and we should be completely fine. And that's not particularly makes for a thrilling debate. So it really is that. If we can sort the defence out, the attacks seem to be sorting themselves out at the moment, and then that should really be positive for us. And then we can just keep kicking on and trying to get result after result. And that's all we can do, is just iron out. And like you said, like we've said a couple of times, it does help that it's not a system error. It's an individual error, because it makes it much easier to iron out. It could be gone within a couple of games, and then who knows where we could go from there.
Yeah, exactly. I've got nothing to add to that.
I think that's
our scenario.
Yeah, I think that's all we need to think about going into the next couple of games. Keep the attack exactly as it is, because it's been fantastic so far. Iron out those individual mistakes. Try and get on top of Crawley, push them into adversity. With Colchester, we need to not let them get opportunities up front, because if they get in front early on, they get a good couple of goals, their defensive quality could stop us from getting a result there. I think that's pretty much sums up what we think about those next 2 games. In terms of score predictions, I'm going to go for, I think, 2-0 against Crawley. I think it will be. Maybe I'm being slightly optimistic with the defence, but I think you've got to be somewhere, and I think the attacking quality will. I don't think Crawley might set up a little bit defensively, because they don't want to get blown away like Newport were, but I think we've got enough quality to get that one done. And then against Colchester, I think it will be a good game, but I think, like you said, the fact that they've got a lack of a sort of proper number 9 will be, I think, of benefit to us. And I think if we don't sort out the defensive problems by then, it could be a bit more of a tougher game, and a bit more of a debate as to whether we end up actually winning it or taking any points from it. But for now, I'm going to be confident that we will, and I think we'll just nick that one. I think it'll be a close game, but I'm going to go for 1-0. So I think we'll win both, but maybe not as emphatically as we won against Newport.
Yeah, so I'm gonna kind of trust in the attack to again kind of carry us through that Crawley game. I was thinking more of like a 4-1, which is a little bit more ambitious, but I don't see it being perfect. But I don't see much of a way of them keeping us out.
Yeah,
if we can apply that same pressure that we've applied to Newport. And then I agree with you with Colchester. I'd look towards a 1-0. I think that game will be a real statement of kind of where we can be moving forward. I think we'll just be so much more solid. I think it will be, as much as they'll have kind of more they can pose us, I think it'll be a really controlled and composed performance. And I see a world where that is kind of just steady and sets us in. I think we'll be looking back on that Colchester game as like the start of what's to come.
Yeah, like the catalyst in a way.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Good predictions. Yeah, I think they're pretty good. So that will be that's the Crawley and Colchester reviews done. So that means we're done for another week. Obviously, we've had a few issues this week, mostly from me.
It's been a battle,
apologies.
this one. It's been a battle.
It has been. Yeah. Those Norman soldiers don't know what they've. Honestly, they think they went through hell at the Battle of Hastings. The Battle of EP.11, Rovers Rambles. That's where true hell is at. Yeah, we've had a few issues today. Obviously, mostly my fault for stopping that recording halfway through, but apologies for those. I'll try and not be such an idiot next week. But as always, thank you everyone who watched or listened to us this week. Thank you again, Jaimie, for joining me as always. I'll see you on Saturday.
Yep, I'll see you there.
Yep, and we'll see you all next week.